these are just the arcs.
Steve, those were existing slides you're
Those are
saying?
existing, yes. There's one anecdotal footnote on the on-grade slides, is that the department gets numerous calls historically, complaints from the neighbors at the Seward Street mini slide due to adults being very noisy at night.
That's a closed thing. You can just keep it open for our parks.
Yeah. And so the solution to that was we fabricated some metal gates to actually secure the slide and prohibit it from being used off hours. There's a staff in charge, someone has to go out and put them in and take them out, all that stuff. But you know, it was very noisy, very late at night. It was also identified on a internet site as one of the places for people visiting San Francisco to go to. So there was a tremendous number of tourists and actually tourist buses were going to that site. So, I mean, if you can imagine living 5 feet from this thing, that would be really annoying. So we want to be sensitive about that.
So other the clean, safe zones for children and other people. I think that's in reference to the grass play area. So we define this as there's maybe some potential grass area within the playground area, so that that it's really dedicated for the children. Make the lower trails more user-friendly, so some general enhancements here. Yes.
On that, I think a clean and safe zone for everyone, not just the children.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think I was the one who brought that. Well, I think it was brought up 3 times, but
Yeah.
when
So
I was
that
bringing up
you're
that
talking
choice.
about the fact that a lot of times the children don't feel like they can use the lawn,
Not just children.
and
But-
adults.
But if the lawn is in the playground area, the playground says no adults without being accompanied by children. So then adults could not have a clean, safe lawn either. Because adults without kids are not allowed in the playground.
Right. So this is
So-
by default.
Many parks have solved that by actually creating a good place for dogs to go, indirectly creates a good place for people to go.
Right.
So
And I think we're going to cover that in a few minutes here.
Real quick, along those lines about clean and safe area and everything, and I know that you brought it before, but I don't see that it's on your list, or nobody mentioned it. But as far as signage at those front steps, dog walkers, owners, please enter at 20th and San Bruno. So all the dogs aren't coming up there right out of their car and taking their pee, the first 3 feet of the place. Because that also goes on with the abutments, at the top of the stairs and all that.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. Parcours was brought up, like the possibility of activating the lower slope. So if we're improving the trails, perhaps we put in some parcours for people to exercise along the way. Improve signage regarding dog off-leash area, or dog in-leash areas. That is, but it's not specific to the location, and that makes sense because that is the entry point. Drinking fountains, and that's been brought up in the children's play area, and also for in the dog and off-leash dog play areas. New play equipment for various ages. Right now, it's sort of limited to about 5 years old, and so to push it up to more like with the slides, yeah, absolutely. So more like up to the 12-year-old, older children as well, which usually means 2 designated play type areas, because the mixing, the speed in which the challenges that they have and the speed in which they move, usually you don't have them all together, usually separated slightly. A more dangerous and challenging playground with slopes and that kind of thing. right in line with our conversation here. And level off-leash area in places. So I think this is the level off-leash areas in places. That's probably the most interesting opportunity. And so again, we go back to the site analysis and we look at the property, which we defined. We looked at the slopes and we identified that this area here has about half the gradient and slopes as the remainder of the entire slope hillside. So if you were going to create a flat area, this would be the place to do it. So what we have shown here is this is the potential place to construct a flat area. And if let's say, the big pie-in-the-sky idea of taking some soil out and lowering this, well, we have the perfect place to put it. We put it right here. And then some of the other considerations are the quality of the habitat, wildlife, and planting areas. And when you look at the site, this is actually the most currently utilized space. It's the most impacted part of the property. It's close to the intersection of 20th and San Bruno. It's a place that really is begging for activation, for increased activity. So, you know, it really is really calling out for the movement of some of this energy to here and to create an off-leash dog area. And so this is our really big opportunity. And this is the spot that really makes sense from the site analysis standpoint. So there is another minor opportunity here, but it's relatively small. That's when you can head on the south side of the lawn and you continue. It's a little less steep until then there's a staircase and it drops down. That span between the staircase and the lawn could be extended out. There's some opportunity there. It could be for smaller dogs. It could also be an area, a small area here is cordoned off for smaller dogs as well. So again, we activate this area. And I think, so then we could take the displaced soil, we have a place to put it. That's assumed it happens all at once. You know, we'll see how this looks in terms of priorities and phasing. It may not be possible. Yes.
Does anybody remember from old timers maybe, why was it elevated in the first place? What was the reason?
This was never cut down.
Because it wasn't cut, it was a hill there.
It
was a hill flattened out.
But they had to cut in it in some way to
It's
create.
flattened off
it.
on the top.
Flattened off the top,
It
okay.
used to be taller, big rock.
So so what's under it? Is it serpentine?
So it's most likely certain.
Yeah, I guess just a one question, I mean, what you point out is absolutely true about it being the most reasonable part of the site to do something like that. My concerns are, how are we going to get hammered in terms of cost, because there's going to be hazardous materials involved, because we're talking about digging into serpentine rock, and that means liberating asbestos fibers. That means issues with hazmat, also issues with fibers being liberated that to make their way into the park, over to the community garden. I'm just wondering if, because of the rock that we've got underneath it, is going to be really the thing that's going to be a deal breaker for us, and that we really need to explore.
Typically, if you're moving it around on site, it's fine.
Is that
If
really
you're
true?
off hauling it to a dump site, then it's more expensive. It is.
Because we should check that out, because just after our meeting, our last meeting, there was a study that came out that actually looked at areas in California, just where people were doing ATVing on roads, and they were saying that the asbestos fibers that were being picked up from the serpentine rock below the dirt was already considered at hazardous levels, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think we'd move it. I mean, any sort of free flowing dust is not something that we want to encourage.
But you're gonna exit
But
it, that's gonna be liberated.
During the construction phase, but this will all be addressed during the.
Yeah, but it's
I
gonna
actually
cost.
don't know why the two are being linked, and I think they should be separately, because lowering the park is a big deal. And the opportunity that you pointed out is a big deal. And both have interesting opportunities and challenges.
Right.
But I think they need to be separately addressed. I also think that lower area, there are freeway issues that rub pollutants, and this area is heavily impacted, according to the AO district, with air quality problems. So if you don't have proper coverage in that lower area, it's problematic, particularly for kids and asthmatics and other people and everyone.
Does that qualify the park, Steve, for more funding?
Well, the Bay Area, the district has, this corridor has been pointed out by the district as needing more money. Yeah, they have, the district has money, actually, it's probably a funding source if you can find a way to solve the air quality
Clean it up?
issues.
Well, I think think that's a little hard to tackle in the context of what we're trying to do, but yes?
Well, most major excavations that I've observed on this hill, the dirt that's been taken away has all been classified as toxic.
Yeah, that's what
It's all been taken far away to go to a toxic dump. So I wouldn't count on the ability to move dirt from the now grassed area to any place else other than that toxic dump, someplace over in Yuba County or someplace else.
And I think that's a perfectly reasonable assumption, and probably something we should assume that we can.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine. In fact, the likelihood of the entire park being developed all in one go is remote. So if this was to happen in phases, that's an entirely import soil condition. We're not taking soil away and putting it here. You're importing and creating this as a phase, as a separate project anyway. So I'm perfectly happy to look at it in these in isolation. And it may be the reason that you would consider lowering it. And that would come out of soil testing and determination. Yes?
What area specifically are you talking about lowering, including the playground and can you actually draw around the area that you're thinking of lowering?
Well, in order to get access, improve access and visibility into the park, you could lower it and keep it here, keep it all on the side, and have it graduate to a more of a slope condition all the way back. And then it works out to about 3%, which is nice for drainage, and you would be able to achieve that. So you would be doing very little excavation here, and you would be taking out about 4 to 5 feet here at the south side of the grass area. So that's what we're talking about, if you were to consider that.
So along 20th, you wouldn't bring that down to the level of the sidewalk?
No, because the 20th drops down, and you would make it so that the flat area would actually be too low.
Well, at the northeast corner, isn't that still like 4 or 5 feet above?
I would say more like maybe higher than that.
And you wouldn't bring that down?
Possibly. Yeah, that could be. It could be. We could consider that. Absolutely. Yes.
On that same note, then, would there then be a hill going up to the existing trees if you lower this?
So that opens up a whole other aspect.
And you have mounds and trees.
Right. Most likely you would have. It would be hard to save some of those trees. Yes.
I would think we should really think about how Mother Nature made this to begin with and sort of leave it alone, because we're really getting into the asbestos now. If you look at where they've done quarries on the other side of the hill, they're having problems with that exposed asbestos over there, and just to leave it alone. And part of it is there have been times when cars have come down the street, they're speeding, and they hit the stairs or the wall. They didn't go to the stairs. So our kids were safe. It's a protection.
Here.
Coming down 20.
Yeah, 20. Yes.
All of the, just to talk a little bit, the fraction of an inch of knowledge that I actually have about the soil based on recent projects where we've encountered the serpentine, is the soil reports that the engineers have given us is that as long as there is a green cap over the material, there's no transfer. So essentially, grass growing, you can do a soil cap over the material, use it as the rough fill, and then soil cap it with clean soil, and it completely removes the opportunity for exposure. It's the conditions where you have the raw serpentine that you have the possibility for airborne exposure, dust, etc. So, there are ways to mitigate the risk so that it completely ameliorates the condition and the concern.
Yes. So I'm going to really breeze through this because there's still quite a bit of things to cover. So, so the better lighting, in the off-leash area.